She set the warm loaf on his step and turned to leave. A boot scraped wood behind her. "Don't walk off, you made this." Lark Sorrel froze, one hand slipping from her shawl. "It's for you, Mr. Quade." The door opened fully. Ansel Quade stood there, jaw rough with dusk stubble, shirt sleeves rolled, a bite out of yesterday's pride and last year's grief. He glanced at the loaf, then at the small woman who kept showing up like a stubborn prayer. "Eat at the table," he said, not a suggestion. "Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you." Lark's knees wanted to back away. The rest of her held fast. The first week she'd left bread. She'd done it fast. Step, set down, sprint. The second week, slower. The third, she had started to wonder about the man behind the wood and nails, and locked silence. The bread had been the only thing she could offer that didn't sound like pity. "Sir, you don't owe me—" "Not a debt, a chair," he said, already turning toward the shadowed room. "And a plate." She hesitated at the threshold, heartbeat thudding against the edge of her ribs. A single place had been set on the table, fork straight as a fence post. Beside it, a tin cup. The air inside smelled of coffee gone cold and fresh board shavings, as if he'd been planing something, just to keep his hands from remembering other kinds of work. "Shut it," Ansel said, meaning the door. He didn't look to see whether she obeyed. She eased it closed. "I was going to leave it, the way before." The way before didn't work. He cut the loaf cleanly with a long knife that had seen more rope than roast. Steam curled up. "Sit." Her stomach made a small, treacherous sound at the smell of crust and salt butter. She had eaten, but not enough. Wages at Harper's Dry were a thin, mean thing, like water too long from the well. She sat, spine straight, hands folded to keep them from reaching. "You don't have to share." "Didn't say share," he answered, placing a thick slice on her plate. "Said eat." She waited, for a test, a trap, the moment when a man's kindness bent into something else. When nothing bent, she picked up the bread, tore a corner, and let butter vanish on her tongue. It tasted like the mornings her mother had made from nothing. Sift, knead, sing a hymn soft as wind in wheat. Lark blinked and swallowed and refused to cry where a stranger could see it. "Bread like this doesn't walk across prairie on its own," Ansel said. "Why bring it? Why to me?" Her gaze lifted, then slipped away. "Town's full of mouths. Some get fed by habit, some don't." She cleared her throat. "And you don't." "That an insult?" "It's a guess." He sat across from her, elbows on knees, not touching his own plate. Ansel Quade looked like a man who had once been taller, as if life had trimmed an inch off his will. "Guessing gets people shot, and starving gets them quiet," she said, and surprised herself with the heat behind it. "I figured you didn't need quiet, just food." A corner of his mouth had almost decided to be a smile when hoofbeats clattered in the yard. Lark tensed. Ansel's head turned toward the window. The horse sounded impatient, a bridle ringing like a struck spoon. "You expecting someone?" Lark asked. "No." He rose without hurry and slid the knife back into its notch in the chopping block. He didn't reach for the rifle in the corner. "Stay put." She didn't. By the time he reached the porch, Lark was a step behind him, shawl tight, eyes sweeping for trouble. A sorrel gelding she recognized, a hired mount from the Silver Star livery, stood blowing at the rail, foam at the bit. The rider took 2 breaths into the sleeve of his coat, then squared himself and showed his face. "Morning, Quade," Deputy Briar said, though it was well past afternoon. He tipped his hat at Lark and made a not-quite smile. "Ma'am." "Deputy," Ansel answered. "You ride hard when you're already late." "Hard's the only way to make late feel like less." Briar swung down. Dust turned the hem of his coat the color of old paper. "We got a matter in town. Thought you'd want word direct, rather than hearing it through dice and lies." His eyes ticked to Lark again, curious. She folded her hands tighter. What matter? Livestock. Ansel's jaw shifted. You have 3 ranchers who I'll swear I am not the kind to lose stock. Not lost, Briar said. Taken and not yours. Lark watched Ansel's shoulders still. The silence around him got particular, like when a hunter hears a twig break a certain way and knows it's not wind. Whose? Harper's, the deputy said, meaning the man who underpaid Lark for long hours, who smiled around town like a saint and kept a tally behind the counter like a miser. 3 head from his north pasture, fence cut clean, no tracks leading obvious. Lark felt the old familiar drop in her belly, the way Harper's name could sour milk. Why tell him? Escaped before she swallowed it down. Because, Briar said, the cut was the way a man cuts wire when he's been teaching himself patience. Because the tracks we did find started inside the fence. Because the way they bled the gate looked like a man who knows gates. And because somebody in town, he scratched his cheek, saw Ansel Quade buying salt blocks 2 days past. Ansel didn't move. I bought salt for my own stock. Didn't say you didn't. Briar held his hands open, only telling you how it's being told. Harper wants somebody cuffed before Sunday service, and since your name tastes bad with his coffee, he's stirring. I came to warn you. Warning's kind, Ansel said, but you're here for more than that. Briar's eyes slid past Ansel to the loaf on the table, to Lark standing where a woman didn't stand at a man's door, unless something was already true. He put the hat back on his head carefully. Harper's got a witness. Girl says she saw you riding by his north pasture after dark. Lark felt the floor tilt. Who? Briar's jaw worked. Your sister. Lark's hands forgot how to be still. Sarah wouldn't. Harper's hiring, Briar said flat. Hiring a girl who's alone and cold and likes silver that clinks. He looked like he wanted to take the words back and couldn't. He's got her under his roof now, says he's teaching her to keep accounts, says a lot of things. Ansel's eyes had gone quiet, which was somehow worse than anger. You asking me to ride in? I'm asking you not to run, Briar said. If you run, Harper wins without a jury. Come tonight, the saloon will be full of men who enjoy a story more than a truth. Don't give them an ending they can cheer. Lark swallowed around the sharp metal taste in her mouth. If Sarah had said Ansel's name, Harper would use it like a nail hammer until the whole town's gaze turned mean. And if Ansel went in alone, Harper could play every card with nobody to call it. I'll come with you, she heard herself say. Both men turned. You will not, Ansel said, the first heat in his voice since she'd known it. She's got standing, Briar murmured, not sure whether to be grateful or alarmed. She works for him. She's Sarah's kin. She's not a wedge you jam between me and Harper's temper. Ansel's eyes met Lark's and held them. You brought bread. That was bold enough. And you told me to eat at a table, she said, refusing to blink. That means I sit when truth gets served, too. Her throat worked. Sarah's young. She thinks standing under a strong roof makes a girl safe, like the rain can't reach that way. She doesn't see where the drip comes in. Briar shifted, uneasy. Town's not kind after dark, not to a woman who speaks against a man with money. Lark's mouth twitched into something like a smile. I learned to speak while men counted. That's why they still don't know what I can say. Ansel took a breath that scraped. Briar, finish your warning. The deputy nodded, hat brim low. Harper also says the wire cutters used were a pair he sold you last spring. I bought them to mend fence, Ansel said evenly. I know what you bought them for, Briar said, tired. The wire sings the same, whether it's cut for mending or meanness. He looked from one to the other. If you ride in, ride now. I'll circle back and meet you at the Silver Star in an hour. I've got to show my face other places so it doesn't look like I spend all my time saving you. Ansel nodded. Briar mounted, tugged the gelding's head around, and went out on a long, dusty line toward town. The yard fell quiet in the way that doesn't mean peace. Lark could feel the day turning, like a coin in a gambler's palm. "You shouldn't come," Ansel said without looking at her. "Harper's anger is a hole. Men fall in." Lark thought of Sarah's laugh before their father died. How it had sounded like tin wind chimes and chicken clucks. Thought of it afterward, gone narrow, like air through a nail hole. "I'm already in holes," she said. "I just learned to climb." He tied the knife down, the kind of order a man makes when chaos has been busy elsewhere in his life. "Take a shawl," he said. "Men think women who shiver must be lying." We rode to town on a straight road that never felt straight. He kept the pace, just below a run. I rode at his shoulder, not behind. News runs faster than horses. By the time we arrived, eyes had already begun to tilt like plates catching light. Inside the saloon, Harper stood with his back to the bar. "Good of you to come clear this up," he said. "I do prefer it when problems ride themselves into my line of sight." He says, "I cut his wire, took his stock, but then my own sister, Sarah, steps out from behind a post. Shame and fear pull at her mouth as she says, 'I saw him near the fence after dark.' Her voice is tremulous sugar, but he just asks, calm as a ledger line, 'Doing what?'" Lark's jaw hurt from clenching. "Family," she said softly, tasting the word for bones and finding none. "Then you won't mind if I ask your family a question." She looked at Sarah. "Did you see him touch the wire?" Sarah blinked. "I saw him near it." "Did you see him break a strand?" "I know." "Did you see him drive a cow?" Sarah's throat moved. "No." Harper clucked his tongue. "This isn't a cross-examination, dear. It's a courtesy before arrest." He spread his hands. "Deputy Breyer, shall we?" Breyer didn't move. "We haven't heard the accused." "The accused is a man whose wife ran and son died," Harper said, pitching his voice to reach the backs of the room. "And since then he's gone half mad with solitary. Men who eat alone learn to take what isn't offered." Lark watched Ansel take the blow without flinching. The room swayed toward Harper's words, like wheat going whichever way the wind decides. But it wasn't the wind. Lark felt it. This was a bell Harper loved to ring. Ansel's voice, when it came, was simple. "I was riding fence I help keep for the town, because a good fence keeps wolves where wolves belong. I bought salt because salt keeps cows from seeking creek beds where they get mired and die stupid. If I wanted Harper's stock, I'd buy it cheap at auction the way he buys men's pride." There was a low murmur at that. Harper's smile thinned. "Hurt feelings don't make innocence," he said sweetly. "No," Lark said, and the word surprised the room by being a woman's. "But numbers do." Harper turned slow. "Pardon?" "Your records," she said lightly, as if they were talking about preserves. "They're tidy, aren't they? All those little slashes in that red leather book. I like tidy. I keep tidy for you every day." He laughed. "You count flour and nails, Miss Sorrel, not steers." "I count everything," Lark said. 2 days ago, you had me carry a crate of salt blocks that arrived on the afternoon coach, 3 short of what you ordered. You waved it off, said you'd settle with the supplier later. Yesterday morning I saw peculiars, a raw callus on your left palm, where a man gets it from wire, not ledgers, a tiny burr in your vest thread, like a man brushed too close to a cut fence. And last night, she breathed, a skinned knee on my sister, where a girl could get it from tripping in a pasture she didn't belong in after dark. Sarah's hand flew to her skirt. Harper's eyes chilled. "Careful," he said softly. "You're making stories." "I'm making them add," Lark answered, and stepped the rest of the way forward. "If you show your book, we'll see where the salt went. If you show your right hand, we'll see how steady it is. And if you let Sarah speak without you looking at her, we might hear the piece you taught her to say last." For a heartbeat, the room was a pulled string. Harper raised his chin and smiled a courtly smile he used when gulling church ladies. He slipped the red book out like a magician producing a dove. "By all means," he said, "numbers." He opened the book to a page so neat it seemed to hum. Lark watched his thumb anchor the lower corner, ready to flip if someone leaned. She took her time. The columns were elegant: day, item, cost, buyer, a craftsman's confidence. Too confident. Lark leaned closer. "Ink?" she said almost to herself. "Fresh where it should be dry." "Are you a chemist now?" Harper said, amused, but his thumb pressed harder on the corner. She could feel the room's breath on her neck. She could feel Ansel, steady as a hitching post, a step behind. "Briar," she said, not looking up, "will you indulge a foolish woman and check the page before and the page after? See if they sing the same." Briar's boots sounded. He took the book in large hands that were too gentle for the work he had to do. He sniffed the ink out of habit, thumbed to the page before, then the page after. His brow furrowed. "This page is newer," he said slowly, surprised at his own words. "Paper's less handled, edges too crisp." Harper laughed, a shade too loud. "Of course it's newer. It's the page for this week." "And the salt you were short," Lark said. "Where did it go?" "Attic," he said smoothly, "waiting to be counted when my clerk returns." "I am your clerk," Lark said, "and I never saw it." "Then you're not as observant as you fancy." He snapped the book shut. "This performance has grown dull." Men shifted. Dice rolled again somewhere, like the world reminding itself of its habits. Sarah looked at her shoes. Ansel's voice came soft. "Sarah," he said, using her name not like a weapon, but like a door. When a man tells a girl to look at him while she speaks, the truth has to push past his shadow to get out. "Look at your sister and try again." Sarah's eyes lifted to Lark. They filled, not dramatic, just full the way a cup can only hold so much. "I saw him near the fence," she whispered like a child saying a psalm wrong, "but I didn't see him cut it." Harper's hand fell on her shoulder. "That's enough." "It is," Briar said. "Enough to say we'll look at the fence with eyes that aren't owned. And enough to say we aren't cuffing a man on one girl as nervous words and another man as fresh ink. Quade, you'll ride with me at dawn and show me where you were. Harper, you'll keep your book available." Harper's smile cooled into something you could skate on. "Deputy, I respect a careful process. I also respect a tidy town. Men who cloud it with suspicion tend to find their businesses inconvenienced." "That a threat?" Briar said mildly. "A prediction." Harper's eyes slid to Lark. "As for you, Miss Sorrel, I don't like an employee who forgets her place." "I haven't," Lark said. "It just isn't where you thought it was." Something dark flickered under his good humor. "You'll find doors shut to you." "I've eaten on porches," she said. "I know how to sit outside and still get fed." A chuckle rose and fell in the room. Ansel didn't smile. He was watching Harper's hands now, the way you watch a river when you know it has an undertow. "Go on then," Harper said. "Ride home and tell the prairie your brave words. The town will remember mine." He stepped closer to Lark, too close, lowering his voice so only she and Ansel could hear. "Your sister sleeps under my roof tonight. You want her safe? You remember that I get to define that word inside my walls." Lark's stomach turned to iron. She didn't look away. "You won't touch her." He clicked his tongue. "You brought bread to a man who didn't ask. I'll take what I please from a girl who asked for shelter." Ansel's hand flashed. Not a fist, just a flat palm against Harper's chest, moving him back one deliberate step. The room went hawk-still. "Careful," Harper breathed, delighted now. "See? Violent. Deputy." Briar hadn't moved his hand to his gun. "Both of you," he said. "Don't make me a story for drunks." Lark drew breath through her teeth. "Sarah," she said, and her voice steadied in the way of bridges that don't look sturdy but hold. "Take your things. You're coming with me." Harper's smile got thin as a wire. "She's under my protection." "She's under your ledger," Lark said. "Those are different roofs." Sarah's eyes were a sparrow beating against a pane. "Lark, I can't. He'll—" Harper's hand squeezed her shoulder, a promise made in muscle. Sarah flinched. That was the room's pivot. Before anyone could move, a tall, raw-boned man in a duster Lark didn't recognize pushed through the bat wings, snow of trail dust across his shoulders. He took in the tableau with fast, hungry eyes, then grinned with too many teeth. "Well, I'll be," he drawled. "If it ain't Ansel Quade, the fence-mender they say was once a better breed." Ansel's gaze narrowed. "Grig." "You remember a man," Grig said, pleased. "Makes today my lucky turn." He touched 2 fingers to his brim at Harper. "Heard town needed a hand with stock what goes missing. They've a talent for finding things that dunn't belong to folks who think they own them." "Mr. Grig is a consultant," Harper said, looking like a cat that had found a second bowl of cream. "I hired him to ensure my interests are well guarded." Briar's eyes sharpened. "Bounty man, more like." "Name's a Wind," Grig said, sauntering to the center of the room. He looked Lark over as if she were a piece of furniture he might buy cheap later. "And who's this? Trouble with a ribbon?" "Eyes on me," Ansel said. "I got 2, Grig said cheerfully. "One for each of you. I heard another thing about you, Quade. Heard your temper's like a dry creek, looks harmless till a flash flood comes." He leaned in. "I like flash floods." Lark felt the shape of the moment. A man who loved bait, a room that loved to watch. She also felt the weight of something else, the way Harper's attention slid while Grig talked, the way his gaze cut to the side door that led to the back stairs. Her heart thumped once hard. She put her palm flat on the bar. "Sarah," she said softly, not turning her head. "Go now." Harper's eyes snapped back. "Stay," he said, and the word had a chain in it. Sarah didn't move. Lark swallowed rage and fear and the wish to break every bottle on the shelf. "Deputy," she said, and Briar lifted his chin. "If a girl wants to leave a room and a man blocks the door, what's that called?" "Ugly," Briar said, "and illegal if she says, 'Let me pass.'" "What if she's afraid to say it because it'll cost her later?" Lark asked. "Then I say it for her," Briar answered, eyes on Harper. "Let her pass." Harper lifted his hands, all innocence. "She's free to go. I didn't chain her to the rail." "Not with iron," Lark said. Grig laughed. "Oh, I like you. You talk like a book trying to teach a gun manners." He turned back to Ansel. "You going to swing or stall, Quade?" "I'm going to breathe," Ansel said. "And then I'm going to walk out of here with Miss Sorrel and her sister, and I'm going to show the deputy a fence that tells a truer story than any man here S-mouth." He took one step, then another, like a man walking across a creek on stones that looked too far apart. Grig moved to block him, quick as a gossip. Ansel stopped. Lark took the step he couldn't, sliding into the space between them without thinking, because some spaces announce themselves like a dare. "Sir," she said to Grig, and it made him blink, the politeness. "I have known hungry men and mean men and men who laugh when they're scared. You look like all 3 at once. That means you'll make a mess if someone asks you to." She glanced at Harper. "And someone will." She turned back. "But you don't have to earn your coin the first hour in town. Let us pass. Tomorrow you can hunt whatever story makes you feel most alive." Grig studied her, amused and curious, as if she were a new card trick. "You got a preacher in you, miss?" "No," Lark said, "just a sister." His gaze flicked to Sarah, to the tremble in her hand where it held her skirt. He wasn't a good man, but he recognized which edges cut quick. "All right," he said softly, surprising himself. He stepped aside a hair. Harper's face tightened. "Grig." "Easy," Grig murmured. "If your story's good, it'll keep." And then the back door slammed upstairs. The room jerked its attention upward. Briar swore under his breath and moved. Harper's mask cracked. Just a second, the snarl showing through the silk. "Idiot!" he hissed, and Lark knew without looking. Sarah had run. "Go," Ansel said to Lark, already turning. "I'll hold what needs holding." She didn't argue. She ran, skirts caught up the narrow stairs that smelled like polish and fear. The hallway at the top was tight, with doors on either side, and a window at the end like an eye. A door banged again ahead. "Sarah!" Lark called, and her voice broke. "Sarah! It's me!" A girl's sob answered, skewed by corners. Lark turned left, then right, finding a room with a bed too pretty and a wardrobe too empty. Another room with ledgers stacked like sermons. At the third, she stopped. The window was open. A scrap of blue dress hung on the latch. "Sarah," she whispered, heart doing a terrible fast waltz. She leaned out. The slanted roof below the window led toward the back alley, shingles splintered where a small foot had slipped. Lark went over the sill without counting risks, palms scraping, heels skidding, before it found a nail head to hold. "Don't!" Harper said from the hall behind her, voice gone low and real now. "You break your neck, I won't waste a doctor." Lark grinned without humor into the inches of air between staying and falling. "You never wasted anything but people." She didn't look back. She went forward. From the yard came a shout, the kind that means men are choosing sides. From below her, a small cry. Lark slid, caught, slid again. The alley rose up too fast. She hit hard, breath kicked out, rolled to her knees dizzy. Sarah was curled between two crates, arms over her head. "I've got you," Lark said, hands already on her. "Up, we're going." Boots pounded above and behind, Harper's men coming to the back. In the saloon, a chair smashed. Ansel's voice, steady but edged. "Deputy Door." Sarah stood, legs shaking. "I'm sorry," she said. "I said what he told me. I was scared." "I know." Lark pulled her close and then away, making herself look at her. "You choose again now." Sarah nodded, tears streaking dust. Lark took her hand and ran. They sprinted down the alley, out into light that felt like judgment. Ahead, a tall shape turned the corner. Grigg, moving like a man who enjoys chase more than catch. He blocked their way and tipped his hat. "Changed my mind," he said, almost cheerful. "Coin's coin. Boss wants his bird in a cage." Lark didn't slow. She shoved Sarah behind her and lifted her chin at a man taller than most mistakes. "Then you'll have to take me first." Grigg's eyes lit. That was the line I was hoping for. He reached, and a shot cracked the air, splintering the barrel by his hand. Grigg flinched and whirled. At the far end of the alley, Ansel stood with his rifle steady as a church steeple, Briar a pace beside him, hand up to show he hadn't sanctioned it, but hadn't stopped it either. "Move," Ansel said to Grigg, voice flat, "or I count to 1. Grigg smiled, delighted by the nerve. "You won't shoot a man for blocking a walkway." "I'll shoot a barrel for trying to be your friend," Ansel said. "Next time I'll introduce your hat to daylight." Briar's voice came dry. "Grigg, stand aside." Grigg looked at the rifle, then at Lark, then back at the rifle. He did a little half-bow and moved enough for a girl to fit through a lie. Lark pulled Sarah past him. He watched them go like a man filing away a puzzle for later. They broke into the street. People had come out to see what kind of day it was going to be. Lark felt all those eyes like heat on the back of her neck. Ansel and Briar fell in beside them, a wall that could walk. Harper appeared in the saloon doorway, civilized again, the book tucked under his arm as if scripture could be tucked. "This town loves a spectacle," he called, pleasant as pie. "So let's give it one, deputy. Arrest your man." "No," Briar said. "Tomorrow we ride and read the land. Today we let women walk." Harper smiled like he was going to enjoy choosing which part of that to punish. "You'll regret it," he sang. Ansel didn't look at him. He looked at Lark. "Where?" "My place," she said, breathless, aware of every step Sarah took like she was counting to save her life. "It's small, but the walls are mine." "Good," he said. "Walls matter more than roofs." They made it 2 more blocks before the crowd thickened into a knot that didn't want to untie. Men curious, women curious and wary. A boy held a slingshot like a vote. Lark felt the shape of fear and didn't let it tell her feet what to do. "Let them through," Briar said, but his badge didn't move the way a banker's coin does. Grigg drifted along the edge of the knot, smiling his private smile. Harper stayed in the doorway, hands clean. Then a woman Lark barely knew, Mrs. Keach, who cried at weddings like a paid mourner, stepped forward and said, "Let the girls pass. Shame on you." And the knot, shamed, loosened. They made the last of the walk in a kind of hush. At Lark's door, Ansel stopped. "I don't go inside a woman's house without being asked," he said. "You're asked," Lark answered, hand fumbling with the key. "Both of you." She glanced at Briar. "Please." Inside, the single room looked smaller for holding 3 people and a brand new fear. Sarah sat on the bed like she'd forgotten how to stand. Lark poured water with hands that trembled only a little. Briar took the chair by the door, like he understood what doors are for. Ansel stood, the rifle held easy at his side like a promise. "Tomorrow," Briar said, "we ride at first bell. I'll bring Tomas. He reads sign like scripture. Lark, you stay put. Sarah, you too. I'll have Moss S-boy sit the stoop and look mean so people think I put a guard here." Sarah's voice came small. "I'm sorry," she said to Ansel, eyes red. "I didn't know what else to do." Ansel's face did something Lark hadn't seen it do. It softened in a way that made him look younger than the lines that had been living there. "Next time," he said gently, "do nothing slower. It's amazing what comes to a person who waits 10 seconds before saying a thing." Sarah's tear made a dark star on her skirt. Lark squeezed her hand. Briar stood. "Lock it behind me," he said, "and if anyone knocks after midnight whose name isn't mine, don't open." He looked at Ansel. "You staying?" "For a while," Ansel said. Briar nodded once and slipped out. The click of the lock sounded too loud in the quiet that followed. For a long moment, none of them spoke. Outside, the town remembered it had chores. Inside, Lark could count her heartbeats and the breaths of the 2 people who now counted as hers, whether the world agreed or not. "Thank you," she said at last to Ansel. "For the table, for the alley, for the shot that wasn't a man." He shook his head. "You don't thank a man for being human," he said softly, and then added after a pause, "But you can keep bringing bread. I don't mind human with butter." It almost made her laugh, and the laugh almost made her cry, and she was on the edge of both when the sound came, a faint scrape along the outside wall, just under the one small window. Not a cat, not the wind, the kind of sound men make when they think women are too tired to hear. Ansel's eyes went to the window, then to Lark, then to the rifle. He moved without noise, becoming the kind of stillness that lets motion show itself. Lark's hand went to Sarah's arm. Another scrape, a breath, and then the whisper, right up against the sill. "Miss Sorrel, you awake?" Lark's skin prickled. She knew that voice. Moss's boy. Only not Moss's boy. The tone was wrong. The wrongness clicked into place a second before the window latch twitched. Ansel lifted the rifle and sighted, quiet as prayer. The latch lifted. This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe. Now, back to the story. The window sash rose an inch. A cold ring kissed the barrel of Ansel's rifle. "Hands," he said softly. 2 small hands jumped into view. It was Moss's boy. Behind him, a larger man used the child as a shield. "Don't shoot, mister," the boy blurted out. "Back," Ansel ordered. A gloved fist lunged through the gap, but Ansel was faster, snapping the rifle butt into the sill. The hand vanished with a hiss. He slammed the window shut. Lark could feel 2 bodies on the step. "If you kick that door," she called out, "Deputy Briar will hear, and every woman on this lane will come with a grudge." A low laugh answered. It was Grigg. He left a pair of wire cutters on the stoop, a clear threat meant to frame Ansel. "They'll plant proof faster than we can dig truth," Ansel said. "Then we show the ground first," Lark replied, "at dawn." "Whose idea was this?" Briar demanded. Deke just glanced at Grigg. "His." Before Briar could finish, a rifle shot cracked the air, splintering bark right next to his arm. Instinctively, they all hit the dirt. Ansel rolled and aimed in one smooth motion. Across the ridge, a figure lay behind a rock, Harper. "Deputy!" he called out. "Step away from my stock!" Lark, seeing the grease in a nearby pot, had an idea. "10," she said to Ansel, who handed her the money without question. She flung the hot grease into the fire, and a thick, stinging cloud of smoke billowed up, blinding Harper. His next shot went wild. While Tomas vanished into the smoke, Ansel found a better angle and fired, forcing Harper to scramble for his horse. But Tomas was already there, grabbing him by the boot. Briar cuffed the sputtering Harper, ignoring his threats about the judge. "The judge will have to smell your smoke," Briar retorted, hauling him to his feet. They marched their prisoners back to town, a strange procession that drew the stares of the whole community. This was just the beginning of their troubles. If you want to know what happens next, hit that subscribe button and stick around. The marshal cursed softly, but Ansel was already moving. "Put irons on me after," he said, "or write that you let a banker burn because you loved paper more than breath." The marshal stepped aside. "Go." Fire raged, but they wouldn't let anyone be lost to the flames. Harper, Grigg, Deke, they named them all. They pulled Harper through a window like a stubborn calf. Grigg tossed them a key before they dragged him from the smoke. That key, stamped SR, led them to a hidden drawer in Harper's office. Inside, a half-scorched telegram stub, a death report for Jonah Quade, authorized by the justice himself. In court, Lark confronted him. "You overstep," the justice snapped. "Sometimes stepping over is the only way to cross," she shot back. Then Sarah confessed she'd lied. The case fell apart, but the fight wasn't over. That night a note appeared. "Bring the fish or lose the girl." Sarah was gone. "They want this," Lark said, holding the fish token. "We'll choose the place, dawn, and we bite first." 2 more incredible stories are next. Subscribe so you don't miss out.